Just a few years ago, orange wines were all the rage. While I feel like excitement for these wines have waned a little bit, it's for the better because the genre has kind of settled in and now there are some beautiful wines being made. Orange wines, or amber wines as they call them in Georgia, are not made out of oranges, they're made out of white wine grapes. They get their color from the skins. They're white wines made like red wines. Little known fact is almost all red wines have clear pulp, clear juice. All the color comes from macerating the skins before and after the fermentation process. That extracts flavor and color. White wines are generally made by taking the skins off right away and then vinifying that juice. In orange wines, you use those skins and you macerate them with the juice. Think about it like tea. If you have water, you put in tea leaves, the water's going to start to gain color, richness, flavor, and tannins. Exactly the same thing happens with orange wines. That time on the grape skins, the skin contact, gives these wines a little bit more richness, aroma, and definitely more tannins than traditional white wines. The country of Georgia is often credited with being the birthplace of orange wine and one of the birthplaces for wine for that matter. Although these wines were being made throughout antiquity, the Greeks and the Romans were making them as well. To make a clear, crispy white wine, it takes quite a bit of technology. You need stainless steel, you need temperature control, you really need to monitor the process. Orange wines, on the other hand, can be made with relatively little technology, as you can crush the grape skins, sometimes the stems, the seeds, throw them all in, ferment them, and boom, you're gonna get wine. That's why a lot of people link orange wines to the natural wine movement. Although not all orange wines are natural wines, not all natural wines are orange wines. My wine career actually started in Georgia and unique wine countries where a lot of these wines are produced. I still find these wines to be really exciting. My excitement stems from the fact that these wines are made from unique grapes like we're gonna see here today. When you get a great orange wine, there's just an unusual combination of complexity, flavors, aromas. When I started getting into wine professionally around 2015, this orange wine movement was really starting to pick up. There were a lot of wines that were not very well made. They were pretty dirty. I'd have to sort through a lot to find a piece of gold. These days, I think people know how to make them and the wines are getting better and better. Orange wines are often linked to Qvevri or amphora, whereas in Georgia, they take the skins, the seeds, the stems, they throw them all together with the juice in these buried amphora terracotta vessels, which they call Qvevri. Although not all orange wines are made in Qvevri, you can make them in stainless steel, you can make them in oak. There's big producers making them. Although generally the best wines are made by smaller producers, that means that these wines are not so readily available. You really have to hunt down, seek them out. They tend to be a little bit more expensive. Some of my favorite producers are making no more than 15,000 bottles a year. By the way, one of the Bibles when it comes to orange wine is my friend's book, Amber Revolution by Simon Wolf, How the World Learned to Love Orange Wine. Beautiful pictures also by my friend Ryan Opez. I actually gave some recommendations for Croatian wines in this book and he put them in, but I didn't have my name in the acknowledgments. So Simon, if you're watching, what's up with that? There are fantastic orange wines being made all over the world. Still, my heart lies in Georgia, the birthplace. Also, I think the North Adriatic region, when you're talking about Friuli in Italy, you go right across the border to Goriška Brda, Vipava in Slovenia, to Istria, other parts of Croatia. One of the producers that is credited with bringing this style of wine into the Western world is Gravner. He's in Friuli, Venezia Giulia. I drank all my last bottles. They're not cheap. Another one of those iconic producers is Radikon. In neighboring Slovenia, there's also some of my favorite producers like Klinec, Movia, which I have here. Mlečnik was also one of the pioneers in that area. Even in countries like Bosnia-Herzegovina, you have great wines too, like Brkić. This is the Mesečar, which means moon chaser. 2013. The cool thing about orange wines, because they have tannins from the skins, they age pretty well. All of these producers are listed in the book Amber Revolution, by the way. I've got 6 different wines from all around the world with different lengths of skin contact. You ready? I'm ready. Let's get orange. Because these are white wines that drink like reds, I'm going to use a red wine glass. I have the Riedel 002 Universal Red Wine Glass. Big glass, 23 ounces, almost fits an entire bottle of wine. I've really enjoyed using this glass. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check it out. We're going to start in Italy. We're in central and southern Italy. For the longest time, until the recent decades, a lot of white wines were made with skin contact. This is the Fontefico 2021 La Foia Pecorino Superiore from Abruzzo. I just came back from the Anteprima in Abruzzo, visited this producer, was actually very impressed. Pecorino is a unique grape there. There's also a Pecorino cheese, and I think they named the grape after the cheese because the cheese is made out of sheep milk. The rumor is that the sheep like to eat these Pecorino grapes. This is a lighter style of skin contact wine. It's only on the skins for a few days. Let's check it out. Amber or orange wines are not always orange in color. They can be golden in color, they can be pink, they can be copper. This one is a little bit lighter in color, almost like a yellow peach type color. Brilliant. Orange peel, just sweet peach. Really like sweet canned peaches, a little bit of pepper. This smells better than I remember it. I visited this producer, that was 6 months ago, and I liked it then. We were outside having dinner, but it smells even better now. Keeping white wines on the skins for just a few days is a technique that actually happens even in Burgundy. Sometimes with barrel fermented whites, just to pull out a little bit more aroma. This is rich. It's low in tannin, so it's not as stringent as a lot of people are used to in orange wines. I think it's brilliant wine. Full in body, spicy. I would love to have this with some cream chicken type dishes. 91 plus on this. I think that could age super well. It tastes even better than I remember it. Awesome. I know this is an organic producer. A lot of orange wines get linked to the natural wine movement, so a lot of times they're organic or biodynamic, although that's not always the case. Next up is a wine from the island of Crete. It's one of the biggest islands in the Mediterranean. I have yet to go to Crete. I've been to Cyprus nearby, but I haven't been to Crete yet. This is the Dourakis Romeiko 2019. Romeiko is a unique grape because when the grapes are ripe, there are green grapes, there are pink grapes, there's some red grapes. In a way, it kind of reminds me of Pinot Grigio. Pinot Grigio is actually a gray or a light red skin grape. A lot of people associate Pinot Grigio with white wines, but hey, now you know. Traditionally, this grape was made into wines with skin contact, so they become Kakhuri. Or Cretans also sun-dried the grapes to make sweet wines out of them. This spends 15 days on the skins. This is what the wine world is all about, especially the orange wine world. A lot of unique grapes. I have not tasted a Romeiko before. Let's give it a go. You can see, man, this is true orange in color. This is brilliant. Rich, almost has this dried strawberry flavor. Oh, dried peaches, dried orange peel, pepper. This is gonna sound weird. It's even got this little soy sauce component. These orange amber wines can have characteristics from both white and red wines. Soy sauce is sometimes something I get in higher level reds. This is brilliant wine. Oh my goodness. I'm surprised. I mean, by the way, the Pecorino, the first one, the Fontefico, is something you might be able to find in the US around 30 bucks. Romeiko, I haven't really found the true price. I think it's about $12, $13, but that's only in Greece. I don't know if you're really gonna find it. Cool thing, I know the winemaker, Antonis. He actually spends part of his time in Boston. I met him in person last time I was there. This must be aged in wood because it has a tinge of sweetness from the oak. It's a dry wine, but you still get those oak-like characteristics. Very fresh on the palate, but on the back end, it's almost got this manzanilla sherry type finish. There's a lot of nuttiness to it. Complex. For me, 91 points on this wine. However, this is a complex, thought-provoking, sometimes difficult wine. Sometimes these wines can be quite difficult. I think a lot of you might like the Fontefico. It's a lot easier to drink, and this will probably age pretty nicely. Moving on here. We have a wine from America, from Paso Robles in California. This is the Union Sacré wines. This is the Gewürtztraminer. It says 40 days on the skins, 2022. Oh, actually, they get the grapes from Monterey County. So cooler climate grapes. Gewürtztraminer, a grape where its greatest expressions are probably in Alsace and France. They are aromatic and just have a touch of residual sugar. Orange wines from California, Australia especially, usually quite clean. I've even had some of my Slovenian wine writer friends taste them and say, this is like orange wine light. Let's give this a go. Gewürtztraminer is a grape that has trouble with higher alcohol, lower acidity, like Pinot Grigio actually. This comes in at $24. When it's made in orange wine and made well, I think it can be excellent. Let's give this a go. This is almost a coppery orange type color, so already you see the differences in color here. Smells like Gewürztraminer. It's too bad not everyone's gonna have lychee fruit from China, but lychee fruit almost smells exactly like Gewürtztraminer, dandelion pepper, daffodil flavors, very floral. Perfume, this almost smells like it could be a fruity woman's perfume. Fresh, fruity, has just a tinge of like fruit sweetness. It's a dry wine. 12.3% alcohol. It's chewy. I would like a little more finish and a little more tannins, but besides that, I think this drinks more like a white wine than orange wine, even though it's 40 days on the skins, which seems like a lot, though a lot of producers say when you spend a lot of time on the skins, sometimes the skins can reabsorb the color and the tannins. Good intensity on the palate. It's bright. That's the thing, man. These orange wines, there's so much diversity. I think this is very, very good. I'm a hard 90. This is an orange wine that a lot of people can drink. It's not that difficult. It's fun. If this would just have just a longer finish, this could move into ethereal levels. I think this is very nice. We have a wine from Croatia, a country you know I have a lot of ties to. This is the Krauthaker Kuvlakhe Graševina 2015. 22 bucks there locally. This is hard to find. This has no sulfur. This spends 2 months on the skins. Graševina is a grape that you might also know as Velschriesling, Olas Riesling, Lashki Riesling, Grašac. Vlaški Riesling goes by a myriad of names. Krauthaker produces more conventional, more clean wines, but he went to Georgia and fell in love with the orange amber wines and wanted to make them. So he started making this Kuvlakhe line. I love these wines when I'm in Croatia. They're just not the easiest things to find. The 2013 vintage of this wine was absolutely brilliant. Just moving brilliant. A lot of wine writers pass these orange wines off as novelty, like things that could drink once in a while, but I could drink well-made orange wines every day. I think they're actually the most versatile food pairing wines in the world, even more than champagne, because they can even go with salads, desserts. You can quote me on that too, I really believe that. This has a deeper, almost rusty color. Got some age on it. Let's give it a go. I love it. This has everything that I want in orange wine. It's got this beautiful blend of strawberry, fresh tangerine, yet dried apricot and dried peaches feel. Fall leaves, a little bit of pepper. Some of these really good orange wines can have the fall leaves, earthy flavors that you'll get in Pinot Noir. Mouth-coating tannins. Has a spike intensity. It's fruitier on the nose than it is on the palate. On the palate, it's earthier. This is a true orange amber wine. This is the most tannic out of the four, so there's definitely some grip, some astringency here. This is outstanding. I'm 93 points on this. This is a wine that would be great with braised pork or any type of braised meat type dishes. I really like it. I love this lineup of wines. They're just not the easiest to get. I remember one time I did a blind tasting in Austria of a friend that loves these style of wines. He brought some really expensive wines from Austria and all over Central Europe. I brought a Krauthaker. I can't remember which grape it was. It was a Mtsvane, Kuvlakhe Mtsvane. We blind tasted it, and the Mtsvane finished in second place. And it's a wine that in Croatia is only about 22 euros. That's stellar. Let's move on. This is the Pery Wines Orange Label Wine Kisi from Georgia. The grape is Kisi 2019. This wine comes in around 12 bucks in Georgia. This is macerated on the skins for 5.5 months in Georgian Quavery terracotta vessels. I actually judged with this winemaker in Korea at the Asian Wine Trophy, and I was so impressed with this wine. Yes, I know it's going to be hard to find unless you're in Georgia, but I was just so impressed, and I loved his philosophy. He said that when he was in university, he wanted to drink good wines but couldn't afford them, so he wants to make good quality wines at fair prices so everybody can experience it. Quite noble, I think. Kisi is not the most famous white wine grape in Georgia. Rakatsateli Mtsvane will probably take that crown. A lot of Georgian white grapes are not aromatic, therefore they do great with orange amber wines because it pulls more aromas out of the skins. As you can see here, bright orange in color. This is Georgian to a T. It has earthiness, and Georgians use a lot of coriander in their food, and sometimes I feel like in Georgian wines you can taste more of those herbal flavors, kind of like herbal tea. This is much more dried fruit flavors than all these other ones. Tons of dried apricot, dried fig, dried pineapple even, dried peaches. This literally smells like going into a forest in the late fall when all the leaves are starting to rot. I know that doesn't sound attractive, but when you put it together with all the other flavors, it's really complex, really good. This is tannic, got structure, rich. Now, here's the thing. beautiful, complex. You gotta want more earthy flavors, less fruit on the palate. Not a ton of fruit on this wine. I'm still a hardcore 89 points. I love the complexity here. I just want to touch more fruit. But man, for those of you that want to get into orange wines, if you find yourself in the country, maybe they're exported maybe to Britain or something like that, I think this is a hell of a wine for that kind of price. Let's move on. One of my favorite producers in Georgia. We have two Georgian wines here because it's one of the birthplaces of wine. This is Lagvinari. This is the Mtsvane Kakhuri, also known as just Mtsvane 2022. In Georgia, this runs at 26 bucks. I know that Lagvinari can be found in fancy restaurants like in the UK where it will probably be like 50 to 100 bucks. 8 months on the skins, made in Georgian Quavery. My first wine book was about Georgia, Turkey, Armenia, and I visited this guy. He is actually a medical doctor. He does all the tastings in his home. When I was in Georgia a few months ago, I went back and visited him, and he said, "You came to Georgia and you were gonna skip me? I'm pretty offended." And I said, no, I was gonna make sure I'm gonna see you. This is probably gonna be the most traditional out of all these wines. I actually have some Lagvinari wines in my cellar. I love these wines. Some of them are incredibly moving. Let's taste this one. Again, a nice bright orange amber color. Really nice. This is a wine where the fall leaves and the earth jump out, even a little bit of cumin first, but there is fresh fruits on the back end. It's floral, orange, tangerine, fresh apricot, maybe even a touch of meat. Incredibly complex wine. Brilliant acidity, tangy. This has got a little bit of tannins, a little bit of astringency, but the acidity really pops, so it kind of washes your mouth clean. It refreshes your palate. Acidity brings the perception of tannins down. Residual sugar also brings down the perception of tannins. That's why a lot of cheap red wines you find in the supermarket have a little more residual sugar. This is brilliant. I love the acidity here. Complex wine, not to everybody's liking. For me though, I'm in love with it. I'm 93 plus on this. This is my favorite wine of the tasting, and it doesn't surprise me. All of them showed well, and the first two from Italy and Greece actually surprised me a lot. So tell me, do you drink orange amber wines? What do you think about them? Any favorite producers? Drop it in the comments below.